The 2023 Brownlow Medal is up for the taking. In my personal opinion, there are only 4 players who I think can possibly win it. That's Nick Daicos from Collingwood, Zak Butters from Port Adelaide, Marcus Bontompelli from the Western Bulldogs, and Christian Petracca from the Melbourne Demons. Let's take a brief look at the players and guess their medal tally over the 2023 AFL season. Starting off with Nick Daicos, he started off amazingly, especially in round 2, where he had 32 disposals and 2 goals in the Pies win over Port Adelaide. Again, in round 5, where the Pies had a narrow win over the Saints, Nick Daicos had 42 disposals, which surely will guarantee him 3 votes in those 2 rounds. Overall, at the end of round 5, I think Nick Daicos will have 9 votes. Zak Butters started his Brownlow campaign quite slowly, but as we know, he picks up in the middle of the season. The only notable game for Zak Butters early in the season was round 5. In round 5, Zak Butters had 32 disposals and 1 goal in their win over the Dogs. Butters was instrumental to their win, and for this I expect him to poll 3 votes. At the end of round 5, I believe Butters will have 3 Brownlow votes. Marcus Bontompelli has been fairly consistent all year round. Rounds 1 to 5 were no exception. In rounds 3 and 4 he performed very well, and I expect him to poll votes. Round 3 saw the Bont have 28 disposals, 6 tackles, only bested by Tom Liberatore. I think Bontompelli will get 2 votes for this game. In round 4, Marcus Bontompelli had 25 disposals and 12 tackles, which was the most on the day. But I still think that Liberatore will get the 3 votes for this, as Liber was very similar, but he also scored 2 goals. So at the end of round 5, I believe Marcus Bontompelli will have 4 Brownlow votes. Christian Petracca has a habit of scoring multiple times throughout the year, but never high scores. Clayton Oliver seems to get a lot of votes taken away from Petracca, so I know it would be hard to win a Brownlow with 2 dominant midfielders. It's definitely possible, but just lowers your chances. Christian Petracca also started off slowly to the year. I don't think he will get 3 votes, although he did have 30 disposals, but he scored 0 goals too, which probably puts him a little bit behind out of getting the 3 votes. Again, in round 3, Petracca had 33 disposals and a very dominant performance, and for this I think he will get 2 votes. So at the end of round 5, I believe Christian Petracca will have 3 Brownlow votes. So at the very end of round 5, you can see that Nick Daicos is in the lead with 9 votes, Marcus Bontompelli and Butters have 4 votes, and Petracca will have 3. Now remember, these are only my predictions, and this is how I see the Brownlow going. Now for rounds 6 to 10. Round 6 saw Daicos have a complete dominance over the Bombers. Nick Daicos had 40 disposals and 2 goals, a clear 3-game vote for the young Pie. Round 9 also saw Nick Daicos have 41 disposals, mostly out of the back half, but for this I still think he will get 2 votes in the Pies win over the Giants. For rounds 6 to 10, I believe Nick Daicos would have polled 5 votes, which brings his total to 14 votes so far at the end of round 10. Rounds 6 to 10 is where Zak Butters really started to kick into gear. His performance was exceptional, especially in rounds 8, 9 and 10. Round 8 saw Butters have 28 disposals, 6 tackles and broke multiple defensive lines, which saw Port Adelaide win by just 5 points. Butters was instrumental in that win, and for that I think he would get 3 votes for round 8. Round 9, Port Adelaide thumped the Kangaroos, and Butters again was extremely dominant with 32 disposals, and I believe he will poll 3 votes for that as well. In round 10, Port Adelaide won by just 4 points at home against the D's, and Butters had 41 disposals and 2 goals in a very narrow win. That is another clear 3-vote game for Butters. So in rounds 6 to 10, I believe Butters will score roughly 9 votes for the Brownlow, bringing his running total to 12 Brownlow votes. Marcus Bontompelli performed very well in rounds 6 to 8. Round 6 saw Bontompelli get 31 disposals and 2 goals in an extremely convincing win over the Fremantle Dockers. I believe Bontompelli will receive 3 votes for that game. Round 8, Bontompelli had 32 disposals, 7 tackles and a goal in the Dogs' 15-point win over the Giants. For rounds 6 to 10, I believe Bontompelli will receive 6 votes, which brings his running total to 14 Brownlow votes. Christian Petracca continues to poll in games where I think he will get 1 or 2 votes in multiple games. Rounds 7 and 9 were Petracca's best, with round 7 Petracca had arguably his best game all year, where he had 35 disposals and 3 goals. I think he will get 3 votes for that. And in round 9, Petracca was probably third best on, where he had 30 disposals, 0 goals, 2 behinds. I think he will get 1 vote for that. For rounds 6 to 10, I believe Petracca will poll 4 votes total, which brings his current total to 7 votes at the end of round 10. So at the end of round 10, I still think Nick Daicos will be in the lead. However, Butters and Bontompelli are just a couple good games away from taking the number 1 spot. For rounds 11 to 15, it becomes a lot closer for the top 4 players. Nick Daicos should poll in rounds 11, 12 and 15. In round 11, Daicos had another elite showing with 32 disposals and a goal, only second best to DeGoey, who had 35 and a goal. Round 12, Daicos performed well with 30 disposals and 3 goals in a 63-point blowout versus the West Coast Eagles. 3 goals is a great single performance, but probably a little bit less meaningful when your team wins by 63 points. Round 15, Daicos was heavily involved with the comeback from behind win against the Crows. The Crows were 13 points up at 3/4 time, and Daicos and Go showed their might with 37 disposals and 1 goal to get the Pies the win by 2 points. For round 11 to 15, I think Daicos will get 7 votes, which brings his current total to 21 votes. Zak Butters really started to light it up with 3 rounds in a row of excellent performances. In round 11, Butters and Port Adelaide were outclassed by the Tigers, but they weren't able to get it on the scoreboard. Port Adelaide were able to win that game. This game will be really hard to predict, but I think Butters will get 1 or 2 Brownlow votes for his performance, and in round 12 it was more clear-cut game for Butters. He finished with 26 disposals, 1 goal and 7 tackles, leading Port to a 55-point victory over the Hawks. Round 13, Port Adelaide travelled to Marvel to verse the Dogs, but it was Port Adelaide who were victorious, somewhat thanks to Butters, who had 31 disposals and 1 goal. For this, I think Butters will get 3 votes. For rounds 11 to 15, I think Butters will get 7 votes, which brings his total to 19 votes. Rounds 11 to 15 saw Marcus Bontompelli have some quieter rounds, but should poll in round 11 and 14. Round 11 saw the Bont have 27 disposals and 11 tackles, but it wasn't enough to get his team over the line. Because of this, I think Bontompelli will get 1 vote. Round 14 was a different story. Bontompelli was all over the Kangaroos, where he had 32 disposals, 11 tackles and 3 goals. A very easy 3-vote game for Marcus. For rounds 11 to 15, I think Bontompelli will receive 4 votes, which brings his total to 14. Petracca should poll in rounds 11, 12, 13 and 15. Again, he seems to poll in a lot of these games, but not 3 votes. Will that be enough to get him over the line? I don't think it is. In round 12, the D's played Carlton on Friday night and beat them by 17 points. Christian Petracca had 32 disposals and a goal. I believe this will be enough to get him 1 vote. For rounds 11 to 15, I believe Petracca will receive 4 votes. So the running total at the end of round 15, I have Daicos at 21, Butters at 19, Bontompelli at 14 and Petracca at 13. Rounds 16 to 24, the end of the season. Nick Daicos started to pull away from the pack up to round 18 until he was unfortunately injured. Is Daicos' lead big enough for him to win the Brownlow Medal? By my count, he scored 3 votes in round 16, 17 and 18. Round 16 saw Daicos get 36 touches and a goal. Round 17 he had 29 touches and 2 goals in a 2-goal win over the Dogs. And in round 18, Daicos had 36 touches and a goal. In hindsight, it looked as if Nick Daicos already had the Brownlow in the bag, but unfortunately he got injured, meaning that he received no Brownlow votes after round 18. So was his lead enough to keep going and to have the medal still given to him at the end on Monday night? Over rounds 16 to the end of the season, I have Nick Daicos scoring 9 Brownlow votes, meaning I have him finishing on a total of 30 points. Butters seemed to slow down in round 16 to 20, where I have him for 1 vote in round 16 and 1 vote in round 20. But he really seemed to pick it up in the last 4 rounds of the year, where I have him scoring 8 votes in the last 4 games. His standout performance was in round 23, where Butters had 31 disposals and a goal in a 16-point victory over the Dockers. From round 16 to the end of the season, I have Butters scoring a massive 10 votes, which has him finishing on a total of 29 votes. Bontompelli came home even stronger than Butters did, as the Dogs did as well, as they were trying to make their way into finals. From round 16 to the end of the season, I have Bontompelli scoring a massive 14 votes, and from my calculations, the Bont will come flying home which will make for some entertaining calls on Monday night. Bontompelli should have 3 votes for round 16, 18 and 21, which will put him very close to winning the Brownlow Medal, especially round 21, where Marcus had 32 disposals and 3 goals to go along with his 9 tackles. As I said, I expect Bontompelli to receive roughly 14 votes for the last lot of games from 16 to the end of the season, and I think this will give him a final score of 28 votes. Christian Petracca seemed to have a rather disappointing run home where he was either injured or it was a tactile move by Simon Goodwin. We won't know. Petracca was moved more so into the forward line and then a little bit into the mid, and therefore I don't think he would have scored many votes on the run home. I still have him scoring 8 votes from the last rounds from round 16 on to the end. However, he was already significantly behind, meaning that I think he's no chance of winning the Brownlow Medal. Even possibly Lockie Neal has a better chance than he does. So if Petracca scores 8 in those last rounds, that will leave him with a total of 21 votes. So as you can see, I think there are only 3 people who can win the Brownlow Medal. That is Nick Daicos, Zak Butters and Marcus Bontompelli. My final prediction is I think Nick Daicos will win it. However, if Marcus Bontompelli is on more than 14 votes at the end of round 15, so that's 14 votes at the end of round 15, then I think he flies home, and I think Marcus Bontompelli will be the Brownlow winner for the 2023 AFL season. I'm looking forward to Monday night, and should be a good night. Thanks for watching.